Be obedient to the laws of Guyana, to love my fellow citizens, and to dedicate my energies towards the happiness and prosperity of Guyana. Thank you. You may be seated. This morning, I would like to say a good morning, a welcome to the media launch for the 32nd Annual CWWA Conference and Exhibition. And I'd like to welcome, first and foremost, Minister Kroll from the Ministry of Water and Housing. I would like to recognize Minister Anand Prasad from the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development. I would like to recognize our permanent secretaries in the building, or in the room at this point, Mr. Ali. I would also like to recognize the chairman of our GWI board, along with other board members of GWI that are here present, and further recognize the president of the CWWA, Lieutenant Colonel Marlon Daniels, as well as other board members and our executive director, who is also in the room with us today. I would also like to recognize the heads of any other agencies who are here this morning or representing. I recognize EPA is in the building. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be here with us and to share in this moment. We're extremely excited. Once you get familiar with the CWWA, you know we're one big family. And our conference is like our annual family reunion. So we're most excited to launch it today and to let the rest of Guyana and the world that's listening in on our celebration and what's to be expected. This morning, so I've mentioned a little bit about CWWA, but I'm not going to go too much into it because our president will actually give us a little bit of an overview of the conference. This is our 32nd year hosting it. It's held in a different member territory across the year. Last year it was held in the Bahamas. This year it's going to be held here in beautiful Guyana. And with that, I would like to invite our president to give an overview of our association and conference.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good morning. First, apologies. Good morning and thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. Let me first start by also recognizing the Honorable Colin Kroll, Minister of Housing and Water, the Honorable Anand Prasad, Minister of Local Government and Regional Development. I do recognize Permanent Secretary within the Ministry of Housing and Water, Mr. Andre Ali, the Chairman of the GWI Board, Mr. Ramesh Duku. I know there are other board members here. I see Dr. Asha Kisoon. I would also like to especially recognize her as the newly elected Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Mr. Wendell Jeffrey. So I'm very happy that the GWI board members are here also. Other stakeholders from other agencies, I really thank you for coming here this morning. From various countries across the Caribbean. And they were really desirous of sharing their ideas, new concepts, emerging technology. Over 30 years later, the CWWA has grown into the largest regional grouping of water, wastewater, and solid waste practitioners, representing territories washed by the scene. We would amend our constitution to allow membership from Anglophone, Francophone, and the Dutch-speaking Caribbean entities also. And we meet every year to really have a discussion. Some of the things we talk about are governance, sector financing, resource management, policy-driven development, and best practice. So every year we meet from territory in a territory, and advances in water, wastewater, and solid waste. This year we celebrated our 32nd anniversary, and needless to say, I, as president, am extremely pleased to play host country to this prestigious event. I would also like to personally thank the board and management of GWI. I sit as an executive director at GWI, and I think so the event will take place right here in the Marriott Hotel from October 23rd to the 27th. We really expect to have over 500 delegates from the Caribbean, North America, South America, United Kingdom, other parts of Europe. And this year we are making a special attempt to have delegations from South America and wider Latin American region coming here. The exhibition portion of the event will showcase approximately 100 booths displaying the latest products and services in water, practitioners within the sector to present their research papers or projects to a welcoming audience. Topics for the technical discussion will include. I want to pause here to recognize again Mr. Duku as perhaps the longest serving member of the board of GWI. Those who know him would know that he wears many hats. He wears many hats, part of which is represented in the private sector. GWI is the only utility in the Caribbean that is set up as a corporate entity. And this really allows us to have the proper governance structure, which will see us transcending into the 21st century. The association has adopted the third pillar of solid waste management. And I'm again happy to say that Minister Alan Prasad has been very receptive to our ideas thus far. And through his technical expert, Mr. Satrahan Nath, I think we'll have a very good on integrated solid waste management. In RW, you will hear a lot more when Minister Crowell gives his remarks, but as you know, government has invested heavily in the treated water infrastructure program at GWI. That program ability to manage non-revenue water, but I allow the Minister to speak a lot more of that. We will talk about climate resilience for the Caribbean, innovation and technology in the water sector, and integrated water resources management. The theme for this year's event is accelerating change in water, wastewater. Now, I believe this theme is not only tremendously relevant, but also timely, given that what is required to achieve a meaningful and sustainable impact. A change in outlook, a change in practices, and a change in I belong to the water and wastewater sector. And we really have been doing a lot of work in this area. So because we're playing host to this event, it was opposite to ensure that the theme representation is high as 50 degrees Celsius in some countries. Storms and hurricanes that plague the region are also intensifying in strength and destructive capacity. The loss of coast anthropogenic activities posing threats to water security, the marine environment, and the atmosphere. And these are just a few I'm naming. Of course, it's a regional event, so I'm giving you a regional context. Now, these tasks may seem insurmountable, but the countries within the region are committed via action and results-oriented intervention. The work of our traditional partners, developmental partners, here I name the Caribbean Development Bank, USAID, the European Union, the United Nations, work with us to ensure that at the policy level, we can make decisions and implement actions that are measurable and also countable. At the global level, it is important to ensure regional representation. The financial architecture to alleviate and adapt to the climate crisis must represent a global agenda. I know the effects of the lack of financing in the region and how important it is for the region to change, but also to have enough financing and affordable financing to make this change. And this is where I seg into one of the most important events of this conference. As I would have mentioned before, we've always had one high-level forum of water and wastewater ministers. And this year we'll be celebrating the 19th installation of that event. Minister Crowell will be host to that event. In 2017, we started with the wastewater high-level forum. And this year we'll have the 7th edition of that. Minister Alan Prasad will graciously host that event also. But this year, for the very first time, unprecedentedly, we are going to be hosting a forum for finance ministers within the region. Because we have been getting reasonable success along the way. But there is a recognition by us, by our partners, by governments, that without a serious conversation on financing, and without having the finance ministers in the room to be able to make decisions, then we really will be swimming upstream. It is perhaps interesting that in many of the smaller islands, the minister that holds the portfolio for expected to be the biggest ever. We're not only hosting ministers, we may well be hosting heads of government also. So this speaks to the tremendous magnitude that this event has now especially Minister Crowell, Minister Alan Prasad, and of course our dear chairman, Mr. Duku, for the support that they've been giving us. We have been meeting with all of our local stakeholders, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ghana Police Force, the airport authorities, the Ghana Revenue Authority, DPI, all of the media houses. I believe that we have tremendous support for bringing this event home. I will pause for now, but of course I will take a moment to recognize there's an exhibitor here who has been a very Mr. Ronald Ramlal from Control Tech. This year he's also, in fact, he was one of the first persons to actually reserve 2 booths or 4 booths, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's paid 2. If he hasn't paid, we'll ensure he pays before he leaves here today. But I really must give recognition to people like him, the private sector companies who exhibit with us, and whose technologies then form a part of the fabric of solutions that utility companies would implement in order to meet their objectives. I will also thank the local organizing committees thus far. There are a few members in the room, my dear friend Aubrey Roberts, the CWB PRO, and also a very esteemed member of the committee, Angela Franklin. There's Lavorne at the back, there's Amanda, who is also conference chair. I think Miss Tamika Jeffries are wrong, Mr. Niles. These are all senior members of GWI and have given their time, of course, to the Blends of Management to be able to allow us to organize this event. I will also acknowledge, belatedly, the presence of one of my other CWA board members, Mr. Dalvin Harris, who is the treasurer of the association, Trinidadian born, and also recently hired executive director, Ms. Lorraine Lucky, who is no stranger to the association, but she's now on as a full-time staff to help us bring this event to fruition. Ladies and gentlemen, let us look forward to a very delightful, a very successful, a very pleasing event which government can be proud of. I will pause for now, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, President Daniels. And as he has mentioned, there's quite a lot to look forward to with our conference. And this is not, while it's a water and waste conference, it's not limited to just water and waste. We've incorporated climate, the environment, and particularly financing, because as one of my former professors would say, conservation without money is a conversation. So we're going to apply the same concept here to make sure we get the money in so we can do what we need to do. Right. With that in mind, the CWWA is host to this conference, but it's held in a different territory each year, and it cannot be held without a host partner, and that is typically the host is usually the utility within the country. In this case, this is the GWI, the Guyana Water Incorporated. With that in mind, I would like to invite our chairman of our board for GWI, Mr. Duku, to give us a few remarks on his anticipation of this conference.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And good morning, everyone. All protocols having been previously observed, we will not go back through that list. I want to recognize the excellent attendance of the media here this morning. Thank you for coming, and stay in touch with Marlon as we progress towards October and the deadline date draws near. I'm very honored to have been formally invited by the CWWA to deliver some brief remarks, and I am going to be brief. At this media launch for the 32nd Annual Conference and Exhibition of the Association. On behalf of the board and management of GWI, we are pleased that the CWWA has seen it fit to again host this event in Guyana. Guyana is a very significant place for the development of the water sector because of where we were 20 years ago, say. We had a president who was walking around Guyana saying, do not pay your water bills, because we were unable to deliver water to our citizens. And this is true, it's not a joke. And if you look at where we are as a country in the water sector today, to me, it's very amazing. And I have been fortunate or unfortunate to have the experience being here so long, as Marlon said, to compare where we were and where we now are. I would like to join the CWWA president in also thanking the government of Guyana in agreeing to host this year's conference, and we at GWI are fully supportive of this initiative. As you can see, many of our most talented persons have gathered around the president to make this conference a success. I would like to take note of the theme accelerating change in the water, wastewater, and solid waste sectors. And I find it very interesting because GWI made it a point to be the accelerants, the agent of change for our country that is required here in Guyana, and it includes the water and the sanitation sector. I must let you know that GWI remains perhaps the only utility in the Caribbean that is a registered company. Years ago, maybe that same 20 years ago, we were heavily dependent on agencies like the IDB, the World Bank to a lesser extent, to develop the water sector. And I just described to you the state that it was in at that time. It was conditional for Guyana and the Guyana Water Authority at the time to create a company. The loans were conditional to us starting up a company. Expert advice and help was received from the IDB and other agencies. And GWI has a solid governance structure as a registered company in Guyana, with the only shareholder, of course, being the government of Guyana, and by default, the people of Guyana owns the company. The importance of this fact is that we are registered under the Company Act, and therefore our governance structures demands that we continually strive to achieve the efficiencies that is required in perhaps a private sector company. It remains a work in progress, but with the right leadership and the right attitude, which I believe is synergizing correctly at this point in time, we will continue to get there. It is opposite that I applaud the support of the government that has been given to the utility in this regard. We have a treatment plant program to be implemented over 3 years, from 2022 to 2025, at a cost of approximately $200 million US, which will ensure that we see our treated water coverage increasing from 52% to 90% over that time. With this massive investment in such a short time, the government has shown its commitment to this sector and its commitment to the people of Guyana. We at GWI are happy to be the leaders in the Caribbean, and we are accelerating this change towards a modern and efficient water utility. I am advised that the conference has several segments, including an exhibition where international, regional, and local companies can exhibit their products and services, and a technical paper segment where authors and engineers and students can present papers of interest to the sector. Permit me, therefore, a few moments to discuss this accordingly. As a member of the Private Sector Commission, I've been a past chairman and the president of the Manufacturers Association. I would like to make an appeal for our local members to use this opportunity to exhibit at this conference, and in so doing, showcase their local talents in engineering, in the production of bottled water, in the production of any product that uses water. And I work with a company that makes a lot of those products. If you want to taste the water that Banks TIH produced, it's right here on the table. Marlon has wrung my hands to make a donation to this media lodge. This is an opportunity to do business and expand your reach beyond these shores because of the international character of this event. On the other side of the same coin, attendance at past conferences has seen GWI staff adopting technologies on display and implementing those to the benefit of our utility. I think the technical papers will not be just an academic document that will sit on a shelf forever and ever. What they have demonstrated, CWWA, over the years is that many of these papers were actually put into action. One such example that Guyana apparently has adopted is the versatile saddle that a particular manufacturer supplies, which can be used on pipe diameters from 4 to 6 inches. This allowed the utility to reduce its overall inventory holdings and really brought some innovation into the system, while I believe saving a lot of costs. The other aspect I would speak about briefly is the need for our young engineers and other technical staff at GWI to submit abstracts and present them at this conference and conferences such as these. Mr. Daniels, the president, will tell you that he first presented 12 papers in 2023 in the 2023 conference in Barbados. He has presented multiple papers at every conference ever since. I wonder how he gets time to do GWI's work. And now he's the president of the association. We have so much work ongoing locally, from the innovation in water treatment plant design, in-house well drilling and maintenance services, our work in non-revenue water management, our work in commercial services management and customer relations. There is enough for our staffers to make pointed presentations at this conference. And I invite all students at the university and our own engineers. You don't have to be involved in the water sector. Find out what is going, and this is a public call to persons who are creative engineers, if you want to call them that. You may have a better idea than our engineers at GWI. Come, contact the seminar organizers, and feel free to present a paper to the conference. Sometimes the consumer of a service or a product has a better eye. We can judge you a lot better than you can judge yourself. In closing, I would briefly touch on the issue of non-revenue water and its management. The President tells me that this is one of the focal areas that the high-level forum for Caribbean water ministers will touch on. And I'm confident that Minister Crowell will properly lead in this regard. Minister Crowell is handling one of the biggest budgets the country has ever seen in any ministry outside of the social sectors. And he's doing a fantastic job, even if I say so. But you can check the records. He's now handling projects that were previously assigned to other ministries because of his ability to get the job done. GWI, therefore, is committed to ensure that NRW levels drop significantly. For the press, NRW is a key word used in the water sector. It stands for non-revenue water. And it's the plague of companies like GWI all over the world. It's a constant battle to get that number down. GWI is committed to ensure that NRW levels drop significantly to give effect to the investments that the government of Guyana has made in improving our efficiencies and treated water coverage. Secondly, as you know, GWI has a sanitation mandate, albeit limited to the city of Georgetown currently. I know that the government of Guyana is committed to ensuring that our wastewater treatment coverage increases significantly in the medium to long term. And I, as the chairman of GWI, I look forward to seeing this accelerated change that GWI and Guyana is known for. I would wish to thank all of you and to wish the CWWA a successful 32nd Annual Conference and Exhibition. But I would like to leave this with you before I go. Water is a gift from God. Our slogan at GWI is that water is life. We are but vessels that deliver that life-giving God's gift to humankind. And for that, all of us in the room who contribute to this deserve a lot of blessings. Blessings to all of you. Pastor, I do.
Thank you, Mr. Duku. And I think it is the nation that should be really thankful for all of the years of service that you have given to us. And so we thank you for that. And as Mr. Duku mentioned, we've really got to accelerate. We've really got to take action. The way the global crisis that we're in right now, it's no longer a time for us to be sitting and having a conversation. We really need to take action at this point in time. So accelerating whatever action we're doing is absolutely important. And clearly Guyana and GWI is doing that with all that we have going on at this point. As Mr. Duku also mentioned, that this conference is a really important opportunity to be able to network with others. So it's not just about being able to come and see some exhibitors, it's to be able to talk to the exhibitors, to be able to network with persons who are working in the sector, who presented technical papers and so forth. And as he's mentioned, while our call for papers has been closed, if there's anyone out there that has something very important, pertinent, that they feel should be shared at this conference, please feel free to contact us on cwwatechnical2023@gmail.com. With that, another important component, we talked a lot about water, but another important component of the association is solid waste. We've recognized that solid waste is prevalent across the region, potentially the globe. And we've recognized the impact it is having on our water resources from microplastics in our groundwater and surface water systems. And so we've also recognized that it is important that this sector be involved if we're really going to be talking about water resources management. And with that, I would like to invite Minister Anand Prasad to give us a few remarks.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, my cabinet colleague, Ramesh Duku, Chairman of the Board of Directors of GWI, Colonel Daniels, President of CWWA, ladies and gentlemen, members of the press. The Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development is delighted to be part of this conference, and we thank the CWWA for its gracious invitation to host the 7th High-Level Forum for Caribbean Ministers with responsibility for waste management. The Caribbean region continues to face challenges related to waste management in the context of economic advancement, increased consumerism, inadequate funding, lack of technical knowledge, lack of institutional capacity, and limited land area are just some of the problems that are faced by governments in addressing waste management challenges in the Caribbean and other territories. In many cases, a lack of strategic approach has resulted in the continuation of the basic operational approach. The basic operational challenges of insufficient landfill capacity, inadequate collection, transport and disposal of waste, little public education, and lack of enforcement of waste management regulations. Waste management follows the linear model of take, use, and dispose, with little consideration for the waste management hierarchy and/or circular economy principles. At the same time, there is no doubt that the region has made progress in elevating the discussion to the level of recognition of waste as a resource, as well as the financial, environmental, and other aspects in the context of sustainable development and circular economy opportunities. Beyond the issues of advocacy, there is a need to focus on long-term, comprehensive, and integrated solutions. Many Caribbean countries are party to several global multilateral environmental conventions, and conventions such as the Basel Convention. They have also signed onto the international development agendas, such as the SDGs and the Samoa Pathway, which speak to their commitment to addressing the issues of waste management, such as health, the environment, and sanitation. It is also important that Caribbean countries keep abreast and engage in the development of the new international legally binding instrument on plastic pollution, including the marine environment, which is expected to be agreed by the UN member states by 2024. The government of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana understands the tremendous importance of having efficient, cost-effective, and environmentally friendly solutions to waste management throughout the length and breadth of Guyana. Moreover, the government recognizes proper sanitation and solid waste management is essential to society, business, and the economy. In this regard, the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, in keeping with the national agenda to strengthen the solid waste management program at the local level to deliver timely collection, treatment, and appropriate disposal of solid waste. We at the Ministry will pay focus on improving inclusivity, financial sustainability, sound institutions, and proactive policies. 3 R's: reuse, recycle, reduce. At the 32nd Annual Conference, an exhibition to be held in Georgetown, Guyana, from the 23rd to the 27th of October 2023, it is expected that the 7th High-Level Forum, HLF, for Caribbean ministers responsible for waste management will be convened to discuss the progress being made in the advancement of waste management with Caribbean territories and the new agreement which will be made regarding the way forward. Issues of plastic pollution, sustainable financing of waste management, the implementation of circular economy models, and the increase in cooperation towards improved waste management will be addressed. I am confident that the outcome of this conference will serve as a blueprint for governments, industries, and individuals alike. Together, let us engage in constructive dialogues, share best practices, and foster meaningful partnerships. Let our collective efforts become the catalyst for the Caribbean transformation in waste management, one that reflects our commitment to safeguarding the environment and ensuring sustainable future for generations to come. In conclusion, I extend my deepest appreciation to the organizing committee, and all those involved in bringing this event to fruition. Let your dedication and hard work be the bedrock of this endeavor. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister Prasad. Guyana is definitely making strides, and I think the fact that the first HLF actually started in Guyana, or happened in Guyana, and now we're going to have the first finance HLF is really incredible, and it speaks volumes about Guyana and the way forward, and the association as well. Clearly, we recognize the importance of solid waste with all of the conventions and all of the agreements that we have signed on to, and now is definitely the time to take action and to accelerate, not just in the water, but certainly in the waste sector as well. Now, we've had a few speeches, so we're going to take a little bit of a break, and I will invite Mr. Mark Edwards to give us a brief cultural presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Very honored to be given an opportunity to make a creative contribution to such an auspicious and officious occasion. So when I was given the task to do a poem, I kind of wrestled with the idea as to what would be fitting or relevant for such an occasion. And I kind of settled on something that would kind of stir us up as a people, something that would help us to have love for country, love for nation, because we're all Guyanese, and I know that we born in a diverse country, 6 different people, different cultural practices and expressions and backgrounds. But what unifies us is that we're all Guyanese and we're born in this beautiful country called Guyana. And I do hope in everything we do, we continue to have love for country, love for nation, even as we plan this conference or any other thing. So my piece is called Motherland.
Motherland. Motherland of Guyana with your rivers and your plains. In this land of many waters, many rivers are your veins and they flow strong. Many raindrops on rooftops is the sound of our soul's song. So every man, woman, and child can hold on to the memory of what it feels like. It feels like home. Set gem-like and fair like precious stones set in gold, but it's our precious people that makes the difference. 6 different races, different faces, but it's more than plain to see. One people, one nation, one destiny, and we are blessed to be a jewel in the crown of the West Indies. We're Guyanese and proud. Guyana, the mother that birthed 6 different races, different faces that filled spaces that were never filled before, impassioned and driven like waves flooding the seashore, all filled with high hopes like high tides through the thickness and the thin on the rough waves we ride. Like those before us, we stand strong, we choose not to slide because we are Guyanese, so we stand with pride. Blessed from the inception with resources and protection from disasters that lay waste to many others, we need only embrace our brothers and work together to make things better. You see, one raindrop alone cannot cause stormy weather, but together they can fill a drum. Likewise, we can and will overcome. Old people say the sum of 1 dirty plus 1 is a full-blown dam. So if a full-grown man bands together with all his brothers, he can shape the world and bring joy to his mother. His mother. Oh, how fruitful is his mother, for her basket is like no other, and her bounty can cover the entire Caribbean. Her richness in resources are other islands' dreams. How blessed we are to be fed from her hands. Guyana, our motherland. Mother that heals the ocean with her sand, bounty and fertility pervades her rich lands that spans every square mile of tropical bliss. Oh, how can the world miss such sweet divinity, such splendor, such unique brand, Guyana,
our motherland. Thank you.
I don't know about you, but I really enjoyed that because anybody that knows me knows I love my country. Yes, so I am here for it. Thank you so much for that. Now we've come to the keynote speaker. In 2022, our 31st conference was held in the Bahamas. And to say that it was a success as the first post-COVID in-person conference for us would be an understatement. One of the primary successes of that was the ownership of our ministers through our HLF at that conference. A part of that delegation was our very own Minister Crow. He attended the conference. I would like to think he really enjoyed it. Had very engaging discussions at the HLF forum, and the end result of that was really the ministers, to give you in a nutshell, in a press brief that was meant to be with the president and a few of our members of the association, ended up being a press brief with all of the ministers attending the HLF Water. And for that, we were extremely happy and proud. With that, I would like to invite Minister Kroll to give us his keynote speech.
Thank you very much for that warm introduction. Colleague Minister Anand Prasad, Permanent Secretaries of Ministry of Housing and Water, Mr. Andre Ali, and Premier Rupnath from Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, newly elected Deputy Speaker, and here in her capacity as a board member of GWI, Dr. Asha Kisoon, Chairman of the Board of GWI, Mr. Ramesh Duku, and other board members present, board members of the CWWA, of course, our own President, Lieutenant Colonel Marlon Daniels, President of the Caribbean Water and Wastewater Association, and no doubt already you can see his influence on one of the pillars or one of the drivers behind the scene in ensuring that we are now able to host this conference. Other special invitees, representatives from the stakeholders, the regions the persons who are across the region who are listening on the live, distinguished members, members of the media. Good morning to all of you. It is a small room, and you may see a small number of persons here, but each one of the persons sitting here represent important aspect of this conference in ensuring that we'll be able to have a successful hosting. And at this time, I also want to recognize the Vice Chairman of the Board of Directors, Mr. Siraj, and Member of Parliament. The government of Guyana, of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, we, through the Ministry of Housing and Water, we are honored to be hosting this 32nd annual Water and Wastewater Conference and Exhibition in collaboration with the Caribbean Water and Wastewater Association, henceforth I'll refer to here as CWWA, from the 23rd to the 27th of October, right here at the Guyana Marriott Hotel. It is my pleasure, therefore, to welcome all of you and our listeners to the media launch of this highly anticipated event. The Ministry of Housing and Water, through the Guyana Water, Inc., has fostered a robust relationship with the CWWA. We share mutual aspirations and concerns for and about capacity building, governance, preservation of water resources, and management of wastewater management, risk management, and also climate resilience. Guyana is, after all, known as the land of many waters, and therefore we see the wisdom and benefit in supporting a collaborative, consultative, inclusive, and sustainable approach to managing water and wastewater. Unlike our ministerial and utility counterparts across the Caribbean, we find value in partnerships such as the one we share with the CWWA, as it helps us to recognize critical challenges within the sectors in a time of escalating risks. Earlier this year, the United Nations held its water conference, which frankly discussed the water and sanitation crisis confronting countries on a global scale. Recognizing the gravity of this crisis galvanized the Water's Action Agenda to help achieve SDG 6, which stands for Clean Water and Sanitation for All. This was a clarion call to our leaders of every country to devise sustainable methods of protecting and managing water resources. It is not a call that can go unanswered. Water is a key development issue within the Caribbean. A crisis like a sustained drought or dwindling water resources, for example, impacts all aspects of the economy, especially agriculture, education, manufacturing, health, and tourism, among others. This crisis of water has taken a social and economic toll on countries around the world. Guyana's developmental agenda for the water sector is hinged on improving the distribution of clean water to unserved and underserved communities throughout the country. In this regard, our coastal water treatment program, as you heard, aims to increase treated water coverage in Guyana. And when we say coastline here, we're referring for regions 2 to 6 and Bartica proper for region 7, where we're somewhere around 52 to 55%, to move this to 90% within or just under the next 3 years. And to achieve this goal, we are so far constructing 13 new treatment plants and rehabilitated and expanding 13 existing treatment facilities. New wells are also scheduled to be drilled along the coast and along, not to mention or leave behind, we have 40 more on this year alone to bridge the gap, not only for the coastline but for across the country, for the hinterland, to improve water supply to our indigenous communities. We are also pursuing an aggressive and unprecedented subsidized housing expansion program. Therefore, new transmission and distribution lines must be laid over acres of lands. And we are equally committed to reducing non-revenue water across the 10 regions to ensure that the investments in the sector becomes prudent. Beyond these actions, at the level of government, we are cognizant that the protection and an appropriate management of water resources are critical safeguards to water security. Moreover, we recognize, too, that there are other worrying challenges within the sector which cannot be resolved by individual countries alone. No man is an island. This year's conference will bring together governments by way of their representatives, technicians, service providers, investors, and other stakeholders in a space that will allow for an integrated and collaborated approach to tackling the region's water woes. We are committed to moving these deliberations beyond mere discussions. So I am excited to be able to meet the ministers whose portfolios bear responsibility for the region's water during the 19th High-Level Forum of Caribbean Ministers responsible for water. This two-day meeting will provide a forum for us to discuss critical outputs from the Regional Strategic Action Plan, as well as allow us the development of the required planning framework and supporting implementation strategies to meet both the global and the regional targets for this sector. These targets come at a cost, often a very high cost, and governments are often grappling with limited financial resources. So access to funding is integral to meeting the targets. Hopefully, our shared views will lead to affordable ways to meet those goals. I am happy that this year's event will include the first meeting of Caribbean ministers with responsibility with finance. It is expected that discussions and commitments will focus on developing financing options and enhancing regional access to finance. And very often, because we can put the most elaborate plan and we can put the most elaborate marketing strategy in delivering our proposals, it is often for us to have the buy-in starting from the finance level for us to be able to do all of these things as quickly as possible. It is a timely and necessary intervention, and I wish to thank the CWWA, the Inter-American Development Bank, and the Caribbean Development Bank for facilitating this on the agenda. It is my hope that we can, together, formulate a regional strategic approach towards funding non-revenue water reduction. Guyana is committed to prioritizing a water sector future, buttressed by appropriate policies, integrated management, and investment. So as a signatory to the Cartagena Convention and the LBS protocols, which binds governments to do all they can to ensure that households' effluent discharge into the Caribbean Sea are done in a safe and sustainable manner, we are very close to completing negotiations for an investment program that will see us constructing a new wastewater treatment plant. And only this week, may I add, I've had cause twice to message the CEO of GWI and the head of the wastewater department, highlighting pictures that were sent of disposal, of the current method of disposal that we have of our wastewater, how we discharge this. But not only is it, well, it is decades that it is being discharged into the ocean, but the other problem we had was the area in which this was being done. It was not being done in a clean manner. This, of course, will be a tangible demonstration of our resolve to meeting our commitment to our regional partners. We believe that we must move beyond talking to doing. So this year's CWWA conference and exhibition theme, Accelerating Change in the Water, Wastewater, and Waste Sectors, is quite fitting. We believe that together, as sister nations, we can be the force that accelerates change in the water and wastewater sectors. Let me assure you all, delegates, partners, exhibitors, and other stakeholders, that this conference and exhibition has the unwavering support of the government of Guyana. I urge you to come to participate. This is an opportunity for us to find solutions that are sustainable, physically achievable, and can be replicated on any scale, strengthen our capacities, and forge new partnerships. it is also an opportunity for us to become aware of the innovations within the sectors that can further facilitate the achievement of our goals. Guyana is, as you know, is on a rapid development trajectory. We are open for business, and we welcome your investment. Come enjoy the beauty of our country. Come swim in our black water. See the mighty Kaichur. Climb the Pacorimus. And if you can, and of course, and note the sequence, taste our chicken curry. The local organizing committee is partnering with the Guyana Tourism Authority to create tour packages that will take your breath away. And with close to 100 booths, more than 300 delegates, 80 presenters, and 3 high-level fora for Caribbean ministers, this year's conference will be nothing like you've seen before. And I'm pleased and excited to welcome you to sweet Guyana. On behalf of His Excellency Dr. Irfan Ali and the Ministry of Housing and Water, the local government and regional development, I want to thank the organizing committee for managing and the work ahead for managing this event, and to extend my very best wishes for much success. I am, like the others, looking forward to meeting all of you in October as we together can accelerate the change and development required. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Kroll. The Minister highlighted that we have to accelerate change. He mentioned quite a few of the projects and initiatives that Guyana is currently undertaking. And I think it is initiatives like this that make this conference relevant because, as he said, no man is an island. And so this conference is the place where we can come together to learn from each other and to help to aid each other as we move forward to accelerate change and to make a difference in our Caribbean, in our homelands. We will now move into, this brings us to the partial end of our event today. We will move into a question and answer segment. We will be answering questions related to the presentations this morning and the conference. Yes? Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes.
Clearly, the presentations were crystal clear. We understood everything. We're all excited. We're looking forward to the 23rd to 27th of October. Yes? Go ahead.
I just wanted to know whether there are plans by GWI to introduce any systems to deal with water theft in the same, and also automatic disconnection for people who do not pay their bills.
Right. Right. Do you want to answer?
The issue on theft is not a challenge only for GWI.
Could you use this to
Sure.
lecture preferably?
Thank you, Andy. The challenge of water theft is not one alone borne by us because GPL is confronted a similar challenge. And it is something that we are addressing. And that is also being captured in, if you notice, there's a heavy emphasis on reduction of non-revenue water. So theft, leakages, capturing by using of more metering is is among the methodologies that we're implementing. But that is as far as where we go. And as we find these situations, then we try to address them. In terms of disconnection, we have been using the methodology of in advance when we have such campaigns of trying to forewarn, trying to publicize disconnection campaigns, because we've been trying to stay away of just having to go automatically, as you would say. If there's a cutoff and you haven't paid your bill by X time, that there's an automatic cutoff. There's an engagement prior. So even now, you get a phone call, there's an automated phone call that comes to your phone when you have not paid your bill. And I've, because of the feedback we're getting, I understand this is actually something that is beneficial and is working. And so we have been using that methodology rather than go directly to the automatic disconnection. I don't know if Ramesh wants to add anything on that.
Yeah, I don't know that I can add anything else. The entire customer relations system in GWI is constantly under review, Dennis. We try to be gentle, but we also are engaging technological solutions. There is now a WhatsApp number where you can relate directly with the customer services director, who's here this morning. We're trying to get all of our customers' email addresses so the flow of information can be more direct and faster. And we have found that this is working for us. So our technological advancements is going to solve a lot of the problems that you now are aware of that GWI is suffering from. We have an enhanced ICT department that has added new energy to those solutions as we go forward. So Dennis, I'm glad you're very concerned, and I want to recruit you, to help us with the cause of portraying what we're doing in GWI. And you and I have discussed this before. Yes, then.
Is there any technology that allows for remote disconnection?
There is.
And what are we doing to adapt technology?
I don't think we can make that major leap at this point in time. It is being studied, but it's not on the drawing board because it's hugely complex. We have to cross some hurdles before we get to that stage. But I think Marla wanted to add. You want to add to that, Marla?
I could. So, as the chairman said, we have considered those technologies before. They are complex, and GWI is on the move to ensure that we improve ourselves along the way. But the actual device that allows you to shut off the service connection remotely, I think the ones that we have studied before are not that cost effective. And also with the utility have always been concerned about maintaining that human element, as both the minister and chairman would have alluded to, where we want to have an engagement with customers prior to being able to, prior to depriving of that service. Yes, we have a utility to run in a very efficient manner. Yes, we have to consider non-revenue water, and yes, we need revenues from customers to be able to sustain ourselves. But we really do not believe that. We really believe that a more human approach and a humane approach is needed. And so, whilst we embrace technology on all fronts, that has to be studied alongside the cost effectiveness of it, and also maintain the posture of utility of being first and foremost a service provider to our customers. So we really have to maintain a human element where Minister said, we engage via many means, and we perhaps do too much to engage, but we feel that allows us to achieve our main aim as being a service provider to our customers, rather than, brutal business acumen, if you want to say it that way.
So in terms of the treatment plants that I alluded to, we have 7 contracts that are 10 treatment plants that are currently being constructed, and those completion will be by the end of 2024, and the others that I alluded to are very shortly. In fact, we have another tender that will be going out. We have acquired the necessary funding for the treatment plants, and as I said, the outside timeline that we're working with is by 2025 on the entire coastline. For the new areas, because you may ask yourself, you have the existing customers, and then we have new housing areas that are being developed. The new housing areas that are being developed, in fact, we have just mapped out the cost to capture those new housing areas. If you take in consideration, we just use Region 4 East Bank, and now we have a targeted allocation on the East Coast. Those are being catered for on our upcoming program, and so they will be drafted in because there are a number of wells will have to be drilled to capture those areas. So for example, like Cummings Lodge, where we have a new housing scheme that's been developed, a new well is currently being drilled there. A treatment plant is actually, one plant is being stationed there, and the well will service to the treatment plant, and that will be distributed to the networking. Sorry, what was the second question?
Deadline dates, was it?
What was I missed the second one. What's the second one?
The second one was for the director.
Okay.
With regards to the revenue deposit received, can you give us a percentage or an amount, yearly, every 5 years, not sure?
Non-revenue water is actually a very complex issue. And for us to understand it here might be very difficult. There is leakage, there is water that is generated and produced for which you do not receive revenue for one reason or the other. There is theft, and there's a number of issues. Perhaps I could ask Aubrey to expound a little bit so the public understands what is NRW. Yes,
thank you, Chairman.
this is
I think for us I should break it down. NRW is simply what the put into supply, provisional revenue received. So this can be, like Chairman alluded to, theft, but a lot of it has to do with water for which is unmetered. So in Guyana, we have about 177,000 customers, but only about 90,000 of those are metered. So all the other customers that use maybe 40, 50, 60 meter a month, they're only paying for 10. So if you're using 40 meter cube and we get money for 10, it means that 30 meter cube of your daily or your monthly usage is non-revenue water.
Exactly.
To answer this question specifically, our non-revenue water figure is in the region of about 60%. We believe that by the end of this coastal water treatment program, right, we'll be able to bring that down in the region of about 45%. That is by 2025. And over the next 18 years, because it's a long play and a long-term kind of process, we want to be able to bring it down to below 40% by the year 2040. Right? It requires massive education. It requires a lot of infrastructure. It also requires us to have all our customers really come on board to understand that the water needs to be conserved, water needs to be considered valuable. You know, I was looking, some days I just glance around YouTube, and there's a German meeting house called DW. They were talking about the water crisis, and they weren't only featuring developing countries, they were featuring water crisis in developed countries. You know, parts of Texas, parts of Denver, you know, where it's very dry, the reservoirs are falling. So this whole business of water and non-revenue water is a very serious one. I'm happy that we're getting very good questions about it. And we'd like the media also use their platforms to ensure we have a greater education about the use of water and saving water.
Aubrey, I think before you leave, you should explain the fixed charge system for unmetered customers. You wanna go at that, lest we get the impression that we are only collecting a small part, which is true, we're only collecting a small part of what the unmetered customers are using, and that is because our laws dictate that we have a fixed charge, right?
Yes, we do have a fixed charge, so each residential customer is billed $500 per month as a fixed charge. Now that fixed charge revenue is used to help us renew the infrastructure, right? We need to be able to change meters every 8 to 10 years. Some customers have meters on their lines that are 12 years old and they probably not required anything. That also has seen on revenue water, right? So the fixed charge allows the utility to look at energy efficiency programs, replacing meters, also replacing porous networks or weak networks.
Unmetered charge, yeah.
Right, now in terms of the unmetered charge, we bill for 13 cubic meters per month for customers who do not have a meter.
Right.
Right, so it's important that those customers understand that if you're using 25, you're contributing in non-revenue water. Right? So it's important that we try to understand that conservation at the household level is important because it adds up. Every drop counts. Did I answer the question, sir?
I think you did.
Thank you.
I want to add something very quickly from the regional perspective. Before President Ali speak a lot about one day, while contextual is different, when it comes to non-revenue water, it's really one Caribbean. Because the challenges that we have in Guyana are existing across the entire Caribbean region. Now, out of the last HLF in the Bahamas, there was a call from both our bid funding partners, IDB and CDB, for there to be a regional approach via grant financing to be able to combat the issue of non-revenue water at the regional level. At this year's HLF, we really hope that Minister Crowell will become the champion of that technical agreement that will see a regional project that will direct efforts towards non-revenue water reduction across the entire Caribbean region. IDB has a certain number of countries that they fund, and the CDB funds all the IDB countries plus more. So this initiative, because it's joint by IDB and CDB, it will really see the entire Anglophone Caribbean being able to benefit from this program. We are working very hard at the Caribbean Water and Wastewater Association to ensure that that program comes to fruition by the time we convene here in October.
Is non-revenue water a fancy term for water theft?
No.
So what's it?
I think Chairman was clear to say that it's a very complex topic.
So tell us in simple terms.
So the
Comprise of difference.
the components of NRW are several. Chairman went through this. There's leakage and there's theft. Theft is a major component. But in our case, what Aubrey is trying to explain, because it simply means for water which we put into the distribution system, for which no revenue is received, and because of our, maybe say it bluntly here, because of our low metered coverage, which is increasing, we bill a customer who doesn't have a meter for a certain volume via an unmetered tariff, and this is set by the PUC and so on. Should that customer use more water, and let's use frank terms, we bill for 10, the customer, because there's no measure to reduce that consumption. You may well use 40. We all guilty of this. We go to bed in the country areas, or well, even in Georgetown, leave your pipes open, and a lot of things happen. Because that water is unrecorded, we can never record it. So if you make a guess to say the customer would have consumed via leakage and whatnot 100, the remainder outside of that 10 is billed. It really becomes non-revenue water. Because the utility has no way of billing it and no way of capturing it in your accounting framework. for water production. So that's really, it's difficult to discuss NRW if you don't have full metered coverage, because then there's a lot of complexity in calculating the figure.
Thank you, President. At this point, I would like to ask that we have about 5 minutes more for the question and answer segment. So if you can keep your questions specifically to the launch and to the conference, and afterwards you will have the opportunity to have a private interview with the ministers or the panelists. Does anyone have another question? Ma'am, yes, you had one earlier. Okay, great. Anyone had any other conference related? And I think this is a good prelude to what happens at our conference, because we get so fired up, like we can go on for hours talking about this. In our technical sessions with our exhibitors, you may come across somebody who's selling a meter, an exhibitor who's producing a meter, and they will be able to give you details about how accurate the meter is and how long forming it is and these sorts of things. So this is a really good prelude to what you can expect at the conference. It's very engaging. That's it. All right, so if there are no other questions, I would like to take this opportunity to offer a few mentions of thank yous. First of all, to Minister Kroll, thank you. You know, you're very busy. We thank you so much, not just for taking time out today to be here, but for your support. You've had unwavering support coming out of the virtual conferences we had during COVID, going into Bahamas, and now here we are. So we thank you very much for that. Minister Prasad as well, we know that you do have a tight schedule. We thank you for taking the opportunity to be here. Solid waste is a critical and important component of the association and the region, and so it's very important that you're here today. To the Permanent Secretaries, P.S. Ali, thank you for coming. We wish to thank Mr. Duku, the Chair, again, for your support as well. As our President mentioned, most of our LOC members at this point are members of our staff of PTWI, so we thank you again for your support and allowing us to be able to bring this engaging event to Guyana. We'd like to take, thank you to all the other board members that are here, and a special congratulations to Dr. Kisoon on your appointment as Deputy Speaker. Thank you for being here as well. Dr. Kisoon is actually one of the first persons to RSVP when we sent out our invites. Thank you. We would also like to thank the CWW President. I mean, yes, as he's mentioned, I think this is one of the first times we've had the President of the Association also be host country for the conference. So thank you so much. I know you worked hard to get it here. Lots of lobbying over the past 2 to 3 years to make sure that we would have conference here this year. To the other board members, Ms. Harris, thank you for taking time to be here and to help us in launching and to be able to continue our plan of the conference. Ms. Lumby, thank you. Our new executive director recently appointed. Again, no stranger to the association, but officially working with the CWW. Thank you so much for being here. We would also like to thank all the heads of agencies and representatives that took time out to be here today. We thank you. Your input is valuable to having an important conference, a successful conference. We hope we have a lot of interaction and participation from you over the next few months, and certainly in October. To the media, thank you for taking time to be here. We welcome your questions. You have our contact information, conference@cwwa.net. If you have any questions also, you can contact us to get those answered, and for sharing the word, for sharing the event and letting people know what is expected in the conference. And last but not least, to the backbone, to the blood vessels and everything else that makes a conference a success, the LOC members. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all your work. Having hosted a conference before and being a part of an LOC when we hosted here before and in other countries, I know it's a lot of work, and I can promise you it's going to get harder for the next few months, and certainly hardest in October. But thank you so much for your commitment, and we look forward to a successful conference. With that, I would like to bring this event to a close. We would like to invite you to some refreshments.
You want a photograph? Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Right there? Yeah. Dennis, you want a photograph?
What is mine?
I think the thing is that.